Hey guys! Tonight we're diving into something you can't see, can't hear, and yet, according to some of the deepest minds in psychology, has been whispering through your thoughts since the day you were born. You're not alone in your head. Not exactly. As you settle under your blanket, eyes growing heavy, imagine your mind like a vast cathedral, not clean and quiet, but dripping with ancient murals and echoing with voices you never invited in. You pass through doorways marked by déjà vu, trip over symbols in your dreams that seem oddly familiar. And, just when you think you understand yourself, you glimpse something older behind the mirror. Something buried so deep, it predates your memories. Tonight, we unravel the strange, shadowy idea known as the collective unconscious. Spoiler, you probably won't survive this one without questioning everything you thought was you. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And drop your location and the local time in the comments. I want to know where in the world you're tuning in from. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge into your psyche, flashlight in hand, sweeping it across dark hallways that weren't built by you alone. This isn't the personal unconscious, the part with your embarrassing high school memories and that dream about falling off a roller coaster. This is something deeper, ancient, wired into your nervous system like a biological inheritance. And the strangest part? You share it with billions of people, past and present. Carl Jung called this layer the collective unconscious, a hidden reservoir of imagery, instincts, and experiences passed down across generations like psychological fossils. You might never see it clearly, but its fingerprints are all over your imagination. The fear of the dark? That's not just your inner child talking, it's millions of years of surviving nighttime predators bundled into one primal shiver. Historians and neuroscientists still argue whether this concept holds up under scientific scrutiny. Some dismiss it as spiritual woo-woo dressed up in academic robes. Others think Jung was onto something far ahead of his time, an early whisper of what evolutionary psychology would later try to explain. But let's stay in this spooky corridor for a second. You glance up and see paintings, no, visions, etched into the walls. A serpent devouring its own tail. A great mother birthing both beauty and chaos. A masked trickster stealing fire. They're not from your culture, but you recognize them. Somehow. These are archetypes, more on them later, but for now, know this, the collective unconscious isn't empty. It's crowded. And here's a quirky tidbit to tuck into your pillowcase tonight. Some ancient cultures believed your dreams were not your own, but the dreams of your ancestors filtering through. Imagine great-great-grandpa whispering life advice from 1874 through a dream about flying purple goats. Comforting? Maybe. Weird? Definitely. You duck into another chamber, this one shaped like a brain but pulsing like a heart. You sense the weight of ancestral grief, hope, terror, all coiled in this place like DNA strands made of myth instead of molecules. If Jung is right, every myth you've ever heard, every fairy tale that made you cry as a kid, was born here. What's even wilder? You didn't ask for any of this. It's just there. Like factory settings on a phone. You boot up your mind. And boom, there's the fear of falling. The search for love. The archetype of the wise elder. All waiting like apps you never downloaded. And don't even think about uninstalling them. They're baked into your operating system. So tonight, as you lie in bed wondering why your last dream started tonight talking we're wolf diving and the into glowing something you can't staircase. see, Remember, can't hear, the dream and might yet, not be as according random to as some it of the
felt.
deepest minds
It
in
could be the
psychology,
echo of
has
something
been
very
whispering through
old,
your thoughts since the
stirring
day you
once
were
again
born.
behind the
You're
curtains
not
of your
alone in
mind.
your head.
You step deeper
Not exactly.
now.
As you settle under your blanket, eyes growing heavy, imagine your mind like a vast cathedral, not clean and quiet, but dripping with ancient murals and echoing with voices you never invited in. You pass through doorways marked by déjà vu, trip over symbols in your dreams that seem oddly familiar, and, just when you think you understand yourself, you glimpse something older behind the mirror. Something buried so deep, it predates your memories.
In the fog
Tonight,
of your thoughts.
we unravel
He's
the strange,
intense,
shadowy idea known as the
and maybe
collective
just a little
unconscious.
smug.
Spoiler,
After all,
you probably won't
this is
survive
his
this
theory
one
you're
without
wandering
questioning
through.
everything
You
you
first
thought
met
was
Jung
you.
in the
So,
footnotes of Freud's
before you
fame.
get comfortable,
Yes,
take a moment
that
to like
Freud,
the video
the
and
cigar-smoking
subscribe,
father
but
of
only if you genuinely
psychoanalysis, who
enjoy
thought
what I do
everything
here.
boiled down to
And drop your
repressed
location
urges
and the
awkward
local
family
time in the
dinners.
comments.
At
I want to
first,
know where in the
Jung
world
was
you're
Freud's
tuning in
golden
from.
boy.
Now,
The
dim
heir
the
apparent.
lights.
But
Maybe
things
turn
got
on a
weird.
fan for that
See,
soft background
Freud
hum.
believed the
And let's
unconscious
ease
was
into
all about
tonight's
you,
journey
your
together.
traumas,
You trudge into
your
your
desires,
psyche,
your
flashlight in
unresolved
hand,
Electra complex.
sweeping it across
Look it up
dark
when you're
hallways
awake.
that weren't built
But
by
Jung
you
said,
alone. This
"Hold
isn't
up,
the personal
Sigmund.
unconscious,
What
the
if
part
there's
with your
something older in
embarrassing
the
high school
basement?
memories and that
Something
dream
not
about
just
falling
personal,
off a roller
but
coaster.
collective.
This
Their
is something
intellectual
deeper,
bromance exploded.
ancient,
Freud
wired into
thought
your
Jung
nervous
was
system
going off
like
the
a
deep
biological
end.
inheritance.
Jung thought Freud
And the
was stuck in a
strangest
Freudian
part?
loop.
You share it with
Eventually,
billions of people,
they broke up harder
past
than
and
your
present.
worst college
Carl Jung
relationship.
called this layer the
And
collective
Jung took his
unconscious,
archetypes
a
and
hidden
dreams
reservoir
and went
of imagery,
solo.
instincts,
Meanwhile,
and
following
experiences
him into
passed
this
down across
strange interior
generations like
landscape,
psychological
he's
fossils.
pointing things out
You might
like a
never see it
subconscious
clearly,
park ranger.
but its fingerprints
See that
are
snake?
all over your
Universal
imagination.
symbol of
The fear of the
transformation.
dark?
That tower,
That's not just
human
your inner
ambition.
child talking,
That old
it's
man with
millions
the
of
glowing
years of
eyes,
surviving nighttime
archetype
predators
of the
bundled
wise
into
old
one
one.
primal
Jung
shiver.
didn't just
Historians and
theorize. He
neuroscientists
traveled,
still argue
not
whether
to
this
exotic
concept
lands,
holds up under
okay,
scientific scrutiny.
sometimes,
Some
but into
dismiss
his
it as
own
spiritual
unconscious.
woo-woo dressed
In
up
his
in
famous
academic
red book,
robes.
which he basically
Others
hid in
think
his attic
Jung was
for
onto
decades,
something far
Jung
ahead of his
documented
time,
mystical
an early
visions,
whisper of what
dialogues
evolutionary
with
psychology
mythological
would later
beings,
try to explain.
and trippy
But let's
spiritual
stay in this
insights.
spooky corridor
It reads
for a
like a
second.
cross between a
You glance
therapist's
up and
journal
see
and an epic
paintings.
fantasy
No.
novel. If the
Visions
therapist had
etched
spent a
into
little
the
too
walls.
much time on
A
mushrooms,
serpent devouring
he
its
didn't.
own tail.
By the way,
A great mother
he
birthing
was
both
just
beauty
that
and
tuned-in,
chaos.
quirky
A
tidbit.
masked trickster
Jung once
stealing
claimed
fire.
that while
They're
visiting
not from your
Africa,
culture,
he encountered
but you
tribal
recognize
elders who
them.
described dream
Somehow,
symbols nearly
these are
identical to
archetypes,
ones he'd
more
seen
on
in
them later,
European
but for
patients.
now,
No
know
internet,
this, the collective
no books,
unconscious isn't
just
empty.
the same
It's
primordial
crowded,
themes
and here's a
bubbling up
quirky
through
tidbit
different
to tuck
cultures
into your
like lava from the
pillowcase
Cher
tonight.
volcano.
Some ancient
Historians
cultures
still
believed your
argue
dreams
whether
were not
Jung's
your own,
spiritual side
but the
undermines
dreams of
his
your
scientific
ancestors
credibility.
filtering through.
Some hail him as a
Imagine
visionary,
great-great-grandpa
others accuse him of
whispering life
pseudoscience
advice
wrapped
from
in cool,
1874 through a
mystical
dream about
packaging.
flying purple
Still,
goats.
his influence
Comforting?
echoes across psychology,
Maybe. With
literature,
definitely,
film,
you duck into
and
another
even
chamber,
marketing.
this one
Ever
shaped
wonder why
like a
brands
brain but
use hero
pulsing like a
journeys and
heart.
motherly
You
icons?
sense the weight of
Jung,
ancestral
always
grief,
young,
hope,
but the core
terror,
of it all is
coiled
great
in this place
psychological
like
invention
DNA
is
strands
this:
made of myth
you are not
instead of
just a single
molecules.
mind.
If
You
Jung
are
is
a node
right,
in a great net of
every
minds.
myth you've ever heard,
A psychic
every fairy
inheritance
tale that
flows
made
through
you cry as a kid,
You're not just
was
haunted
born
by
here.
your past,
What's
you're
even
haunted
wilder?
by everyone.
You didn't ask
And
for
maybe
any of
that's
this.
not as creepy
It's just
as it
there.
sounds.
Like factory
Maybe it's
settings on a
comforting,
phone.
like knowing
You
you're
boot
never
up your
really
mind,
alone.
and
Even
boom,
in your
there's the
darkest
fear of falling.
thoughts.
The search for
Especially
love,
in your
the
darkest
archetype of the
thoughts.
wise
You
elder,
pause now in a
all
hallway
waiting
lined
like
with
apps you
mirrors.
never
But the
downloaded,
faces
and
staring
don't
back
even
at you
think
aren't
about
just
uninstalling
yours.
them.
They're
They're
echoes
baked
of
into your
ancestors,
operating system.
gods,
So tonight,
symbols,
as you lie in
the
bed
hero,
wondering why
the
you're
shadow,
late, guys,
the animat,
tonight we're
the
diving
trickster.
into something
They
you
blink
can't
in and
see,
out like bad
can't
Wi-Fi.
hear, and
But
yet,
they're always
according to
watching,
some of the deepest
not to
minds in
judge,
psychology,
but to remind
has
you
been
who you've
whispering through
always
your
been,
thoughts since the
and
day
who
you were
still
born.
might become.
You're not
You're
alone in
walking
your
now
head.
through a hall of
Not
masks.
exactly. As
Some
you
grin,
settle under your
some weep.
blanket,
One
eyes
snarls
growing
with
heavy,
a beast's teeth.
imagine your mind
You
like a
reach out
vast
and touch
cathedral,
them, not
clean
physical,
and quiet,
of course,
but dripping
but
with ancient
startlingly
murals
familiar.
and echoing
These
with
are
voices you
archetypes,
never invited
Jung's
in.
most
You pass
haunting
through doorways
contribution to
marked
how
by
we
déjà
understand
vu,
ourselves.
trip over symbols
They're
in
not
your
just
dreams that
symbols.
seem oddly
They're
familiar,
characters scripted
and
into
just
your
when you
psyche
think you
before
understand
were even
yourself,
born.
you
And
glimpse
here's the
something
twist,
older
they're
behind
not
the mirror.
yours.
Something
They belong
buried so
to
deep.
everyone.
It
Let's start
predates
with
your
the big
memories.
players.
Tonight,
The hero,
we unravel
think
the
Hercules.
strange. shadowy idea known as the collective unconscious.
Named John in an
Spoiler,
action movie.
you probably won't survive this one without questioning everything you thought was you.
The world in myths
before
and
you get
diapers.
comfortable,
The shadow,
take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And drop your location and the local time in the comments. I want to know where in the world you're tuning in from. Now,
your coworker
dim the
always
lights,
forgets to reply.
maybe turn on a fan
These
for that
archetypes
soft
aren't made
background
up.
hum.
They're
And let's
discovered
ease into tonight's
recurring
journey
patterns
together.
embedded in
You trudge
stories
into your
across
psyche,
cultures,
flashlight in
eras,
hand,
and dinner
sweeping it
table
across dark
dramas.
hallways
The
that
Mayans
weren't
had
built
them.
by you alone.
The Norse had them.
This isn't the
Your
personal
grandma's
unconscious,
bedtime
the
stories
part with
had
your
them.
embarrassing
Even
high
your
school
5-year-old's
memories and that
Lego
dream
play
about
probably
falling off a
follows an
roller
archetypal
coaster.
arc.
This
That's
is something
how deep this
deeper,
goes.
ancient,
Jung believed
wired
these
into
were
your
not
nervous
just
system
cultural
like a
habits, but
biological
psychic
inheritance.
blueprints.
And the
You don't
strangest
learn
part?
the hero's journey.
You share it with
You
billions of
recognize it.
people.
Like
Past
a song
and
you
present.
already knew
Carl
the
Jung
melody
called
to.
this layer the
Even on
collective
first
unconscious,
listen,
a hidden
historians still
reservoir of
debate whether
imagery,
archetypes are
instincts,
truly universal or
and
if we're
experiences
cherry-picking
passed down
examples to
across
fit a
generations
theory.
like
Some critics
psychological
argue that
fossils.
Jung
You might never see it
over-romanticized
clearly,
mythology.
but its
Mining
fingerprints
symbolism
are all
until
over
even
your
toaster
imagination.
could be a metaphor
The fear
for
of the
inner fire.
dark?
But
That's
others
not
say
just
his
your
brilliance
inner
was
child
seeing
talking.
connections no
It's
one else
millions
dared
of
to
years of
trace.
surviving
Here's a
lifetime
fringe
predators
example to make
bundled
your
into one
eyebrows
primal
arch.
shiver.
Jung once
Historians and
suggested that flying
neuroscientists
saucers
still
were a modern
argue whether this
archetype.
concept
Circular
holds up under
mandalas
scientific
appearing in the skies
scrutiny.
to symbolize
Some dismiss it
humanity's
as spiritual
longing
woo-woo
for
dressed
unity
up in
during
academic
times of
robes.
chaos.
Others
So,
think Jung was onto something
that
far
next
ahead of
UFO
his
sighting
time, an
might
early
be
whisper
less
of what
alien
evolutionary
invasion,
psychology
more
would later
archetypal
try to
projection.
explain.
Sweet
But let's
dreams.
stay in this
You wander
spooky
past a
corridor
fresco
for a
of
second.
ancient carvings,
You glance
a
up and
serpent
see
in a tree,
paintings,
a man
no,
with wings,
visions,
a woman
etched
holding
into
a
the
skull.
walls.
You've
A
never been
serpent
to this
devouring its
imaginary
own
museum
tail.
before.
A great
But
mother
you know
birthing
these
both beauty
figures.
and chaos.
They've been waiting
A
in the
masked
background
trickster
of your
stealing
dreams.
fire. They're not
Films,
from your culture,
religion,
but you
memes,
recognize
even
them
marketing
somehow.
slogans.
These
You
are
remember how
archetypes.
Disney
More
movies
on them
always have
later,
a wise
but for
elder
now,
who dies too
know
soon.
this: the collective
Archetype.
unconscious
You
isn't
recall
empty.
that horror
It's
films
crowded.
always
And
punish
here's a
the
quirky
rule
tidbit
breaker.
to tuck into your
Archetype.
pillowcase
You
tonight.
even
Some
realize that
ancient
every
cultures
rom-com you've
believed
ever
your
watched
dreams were not
basically
your
boils
own,
down to the
but the
lover's
dreams
journey,
of your ancestors
complete with
filtering through.
miscommunication,
Imagine
transformation,
great-great-grandpa
and a kiss in
whispering
the
life
rain.
advice
And
from
don't get too
1874
smug.
through a dream
Thinking
about
you've
flying
escaped
purple
the mold.
goats.
Jung
Comforting?
argued that you live through
Maybe.
these archetypes
Weird?
every day.
Definitely.
Switching
You duck
between
into
the
another
innocent,
chamber, this
the
one
warrior,
shaped like
the
a brain
outlaw,
but pulsing
and
like a heart.
Yes,
You sense
even
the weight of
fool,
ancestral
especially
grief,
before coffee.
hope,
But here's
terror,
the eerie
all
part.
coiled in
These
this place
masks
like
sometimes
DNA
wear
strands
you.
made of
You
myth
might
instead
think
of
you're choosing your
molecules.
identity,
If Jung is
your
right,
relationships,
every myth
your
you've ever
dreams.
heard,
But
every fairy
sometimes
tale that made you
it's the
cry as a
archetype
kid
that's doing the
was born
choosing.
here.
It's
What's
the hero
even
in you
wilder?
that refuses
You
to
didn't
quit.
ask for
The
any
shadow
of
that
this.
lashes out.
It's just there.
The trickster that
Like
can't
factory
resist
settings
pressing
on
that
a
one
phone.
button labeled
You boot
"Don't
up your
touch."
mind,
You lean in
and
closer
boom,
to one
there's the
mask,
fear of
it's
falling.
cracked.
The search
Half
for love.
human,
The
half
archetype of the
beast,
wise
the
elder.
shadow.
All
Jung
waiting
said
like
you
apps
can't
you
be
never
whole until you
downloaded,
face it.
and don't even
All the
think
parts
about
of yourself you
uninstalling them.
repress,
They're baked
hide,
into your operating
deny.
system.
They
So
don't
tonight,
vanish. They
as
live
you lie
here,
in bed
in
wondering
the
why you're
unconscious,
guys,
waiting patiently for
tonight
you
we're
to say
diving into
hello,
something
and
you
will.
can't see,
Eventually,
can't hear,
because as you're
and
learning
yet,
tonight,
according to some of
you're
the
not
deepest
just
minds in
telling
psychology,
stories,
has
you
been
are
whispering
stories.
through your thoughts
Stories
since the
older
day you
than
were
you.
born.
Stories
You're
that
not
remember
alone in
things
your
your
head.
conscious mind
Not
forgot.
exactly.
And
As
whether
you
you
settle
see them
under
in
your
Marvel
blanket,
blockbusters or your
eyes
latest
growing
weird
heavy,
dream about
imagine
getting
your
lost in
mind
a
like a
hall full of
vast cathedral,
wolves.
not
The
clean and
archetypes are
quiet,
watching,
but
not to
dripping with
scare you,
ancient
just
murals
to
and
remind
echoing
you
with
the
voices
story
you
isn't
never
over
invited
yet.
in. You
You
pass
blink
through
and suddenly
doorways
you're no
marked by
longer
deja vu,
in the hall of
trip
masks.
over symbols in
You're
your dreams
standing
that seem
inside
oddly
your own
familiar.
dream, but
And,
not a dream.
just when you think you
Not just the
understand
one you
yourself,
had last
you
night where
glimpse
your
something
boss turned
older
into
behind
a
the mirror.
jellyfish and your
Something
teeth
buried
kept
so
falling
deep,
out in slow
it
motion.
predates your
No,
memories.
this dream
Tonight,
is older,
we unravel
richer,
the strange,
stitched together
shadowy
from the same
idea known as the
mythological
collective
DNA that built
unconscious.
pyramids,
Spoiler,
carved
you probably won't
runes,
survive
and
this
whispered
one without
bedtime
questioning
stories
everything you thought was you. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And drop your location and the local time in the comments. But I want to know where in the world you're tuning in from. Now, dim the lights from your mind. Maybe turn on the fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge into your psyche, floating now, flashlight in hand, sweeping it across dark hallways that weren't built by you alone. This isn't the personal unconscious, a wolf the part with your embarrassing high school memories and the dream about falling off a roller coaster. An old woman this is something deeper, ancient, it all sounds wired into your nervous system like a biological inheritance. It's not. And the strangest part, language. You share it with billions of people, unconscious. Past and present. Carl Jung called this layer the collective unconscious, would say a hidden reservoir of imagery, instincts, and experiences passed down across generations like psychological fossils. Don't rush to Google. You might never see it clearly, but its fingerprints are all over your imagination. The fear of the dark, that's not just your inner child talking, it's millions of years of surviving nighttime predators bundled into one primal shiver. Historians and neuroscientists still argue whether this concept holds up under scientific scrutiny. Some dismiss it as spiritual woo-woo dressed up in academic robes. Others think Jung was onto something far ahead of his time, an early whisper of what evolutionary psychology would later try to explain. But let's stay in this spooky corridor for a second. You glance up and see paintings, visions, etched into the walls, a serpent devouring its own tail, a great mother birthing both beauty and chaos, a masked trickster stealing fire. They're not from your culture, but you recognize them somehow. These are archetypes, more on them later, but for now, know this. The collective unconscious isn't empty. It's crowded. And here's a quirky tidbit to tuck into your pillowcase tonight. Some ancient cultures believed your dreams were not your own, but the dreams of your ancestors filtering through. You've probably imagine great-great-grandpa whispering life advice from 1874 through a dream about flying purple goats. Enough of them did that your brain still screams when gravity disappears. You are definitely. You duck into another chamber. This one shaped like a brain but pulsing like a heart. You sense the weight of ancestral grief. Where the unconscious terror, all coiled in this place like DNA strands made of myth instead of molecules. To rehearse for life. If Jung is right, every myth you've ever heard, every fairy tale that made you cry as a kid, was born here. What's even wilder, you didn't ask for any of this, it's just there, like factory settings on a phone. You boot up your mind, and boom, there's the fear of falling, the search for love. The archetype of the wise elder, because the collective all waiting like us you never downloaded, and don't even think about uninstalling them. They're baked into your operating system. So tonight, as you lie in bed wondering why you're something, remember something, heal something. And yes, maybe you just ate too much cheese. But maybe, just maybe, that dream wasn't nonsense. Maybe it was the universe's weirdest love letter. Or the collective whispering, hey, you're not alone in this. You emerge now from the dreamscape. A little drowsy. A little dazzled. But just when you think the collective unconscious might be some quiet back room in the psyche, just dreams and symbols, you realize something bigger. Something louder. You start to notice it in stories. Everywhere. You plop onto your couch. Scroll through Netflix. And suddenly it hits you. Every hero movie feels kind of the same. Every ancient myth also kind of the same. Even fairy tales from opposite ends of the globe seem to echo each other like long-lost twins. You're not imagining it. Welcome to the archetypal loop, and your ticket is one way. It starts with the monomyth, or the hero's journey, a narrative template that, fun fact, wasn't Jung's but was deeply inspired by him. Joseph Campbell, the guy who coined it, openly admitted that Jung's ideas lit the path. You know the formula: a call to adventure, a wise mentor, trials, temptation, the big fall, and then triumph. Luke Skywalker, Frodo, Moana, even Neo in the Matrix. Check, check, and check. It's not laziness, it's human nature. Jung believed we crave these structures because they live inside us. We retell them not because we lack imagination, but because they match our psychological evolution. These stories feel right because they mirror the way our minds navigate crisis, change, and growth. Historians still argue whether this storytelling pattern is truly universal or just a Western lens projected onto everything else. But it's hard to deny, whether it's Gilgamesh or Game of Thrones. There's a rhythm, a psychological pulse, that keeps beating through every generation. Here's a curious fringe theory you can file under. Maybe don't say this at parties. Some scholars argue that popular media isn't just influenced by the collective unconscious, it's shaping it. That we are building a new layer of collective imagery through movies, memes, and social networks. In other words, Marvel isn't just riding the archetypes, it's updating them. So that Iron Man you love, he's a remix of the Wounded King, the Trickster, and the Hero in Exile. Elsa from Frozen? Classic archetype, the isolated feminine divine, plus a killer soundtrack. And Thanos? Oh, he's a whole buffet of shadow-turned-savior messiness. Say what you will about his ethics, but the guy knew how to leave an archetypal impression. But it's not just blockbusters. Myths across ancient cultures, many with zero contact, mirror each other eerily. Flood myths from Mesopotamia to Mesoamerica. Serpents as both destroyers and bringers of wisdom. Trees that hold the world together. Coincidence? Or is the human mind simply wired to build reality out of symbols that feel bigger than logic? You look down at your own life and start to wonder, have I lived through one of these patterns before? Was that awful breakup a kind of symbolic death? Was your first job interview a trial in the hero's cave? Is your dog actually your wise old mentor? Probably not, but don't tell him. These myths don't just entertain. They guide. They give shape to things we can't articulate. That's why, in the middle of chaos, we reach for stories. It's not just to escape, it's to locate ourselves. You're floating again. Not in a dream this time, but through a web of stories, each one humming with archetypes. They tug at you, pull you in, because tonight we're diving into something you can't see, it sings, can't hear, and yet, according to some of the deepest minds in psychology, has been whispering through your thoughts since the day you were born. Not the quiet of dreams, you're not alone in your head, grandeur of myth, not exactly, but the muddy as you settle under your blanket, and eyes growing heavy. Imagine your mind like a vast cathedral, where the world not clean and quiet, but dripping with ancient murals and echoing with voices you never invited in. You pass through doorways marked by déjà vu, trip over symbols in your dreams that seem oddly familiar, and, just when you think you understand yourself, you glimpse something older behind the mirror, like the kid something buried so deep, kind of predates your memories, but also kind of suspicious. We unravel the strange, Jung was a shadowy idea known as the collective unconscious. Spoiler, you probably won't survive this one without questioning everything you thought was you. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here, and drop your location and the local time in the comments. I want to know where in the world you're tuning in from now. Dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge into your psyche, flashlight in hand, they say, sweeping it across dark hallways that weren't built by you alone. This isn't the personal unconscious, the part with your embarrassing high school memories and that dream about falling off a roller coaster. This is something deeper, ancient, wired into your nervous system like a biological inheritance. And the strangest memories of serpents you share it with billions of people, while past and present. That Carl Jung called this layer the collective unconscious, a hidden reservoir of imagery. That's not quite the same as remembering and experiences passed down across generations like psychological fossils. Once you know about you might never see it clearly, but its fingerprints are all over your imagination. The fear of the dark, that's not just your inner child talking, it's millions of years of surviving nighttime predators bundled into one primal shiver. Historians and neuroscientists still argue whether this concept holds up under scientific scrutiny. Some dismiss it as spiritual woo-woo dressed up in academic robes. Others think Jung was onto something far ahead of his time, an early whisper of what evolutionary psychology would later try to explain. But let's stay in this spooky corridor for a second. You
Jung
glance
was
up and
deeply
see
into
paintings.
astrology.
No,
He saw it not as a
visions
predictive science,
etched into the walls,
but as another
a
symbolic
serpent
system
devouring
revealing
its own
collective psychic
tail,
movements.
a great mother birthing
That's
both
right.
beauty and
He
chaos,
used planetary
a
charts
masked
to map
trickster stealing
psychological
fire.
change.
They're not from
which
your
is either
culture,
genius or
but you
horoscope
recognize
tier
them
nonsense,
somehow.
depending on
These
your
are
vibe.
archetypes.
And yet,
More on them
for
later,
all the
but for
criticism,
now.
the
Know
collective
this, the
unconscious
collective
refuses to
unconscious
fade
isn't
away.
empty.
It clings,
It's crowded. And
not
here's a
because
quirky
it can be
tidbit to
measured,
tuck into your
but because
pillowcase
it feels
tonight.
true.
Some ancient
It
cultures
resonates.
believed your
Like
dreams were
finding
not
a
your
story
own,
from ancient
but the
India
dreams
and
of your
realizing it's
ancestors
telling your
filtering
life in
through.
Sanskrit.
Imagine
Or reading a fairy
great-great-grandpa
tale and
whispering
crying
life
over a
advice from
character who technically
1874
doesn't
through a dream
exist.
about flying
Truth,
purple
it
goats.
seems,
Comforting?
doesn't always wear a lab
Maybe.
coat.
Weird?
So where does that leave
Definitely. You duck
dear
into another
wanderer?
chamber,
Standing
this
at
one
a
shaped like a
philosophical
brain but
crossroads.
pulsing like a
On
heart.
one side,
You sense the
cold
weight of
reason and
ancestral
cognitive
grief,
science,
hope,
asking for
terror,
proof.
all coiled
On
in
the
this
other,
place like
Jung's
DNA
quiet
strands
voice,
made of myth instead of
reminding
molecules.
you that some things,
If Jung
grief,
is right,
or
every myth you've ever
transformation,
heard,
are real
every
before
fairy
they are
tale that made you
explained.
cry
Maybe
as a
the
kid
collective
was
unconscious
born
isn't
here.
something
What's
you
even
prove.
wilder?
Maybe it's
You didn't
something
ask
you
for any of
recognize.
this.
Like
It's
déjà
just
vu.
there.
Or the
Like
weird
factory
moments when
settings on
someone
a
says
phone.
exactly what
You
you
boot
needed
up your
to hear,
mind,
but
and
never
boom,
knew how
there's
to
the
ask.
fear of
So
falling.
no,
The
you
search
don't
for
need
love,
to believe
the
everything
archetype
Jung
of the
said.
wise elder,
You can raise an
all
eyebrow.
waiting like
You
apps
can
you never
fact check.
downloaded.
But
And
if you
don't
ever have
even
a dream
think
that
about
shakes you to your
uninstalling
core,
them.
or read
They're
a story
baked
from
into your operating
3.000
system. So
years
tonight,
ago that feels
as you lie
like
in
it was
bed
written
wondering
for
why
you,
you're
maybe pause and listen. You might just hear the collective whispering back. You're back now in waking life, feet on the ground, coffee in hand, phone buzzing. But look again. You're not as awake as you think. Because the collective unconscious, it didn't vanish when you shut your eyes. It's right here. Baked into your every scroll, purchase, and awkward conversation about your inner child. Welcome to the modern playground of the collective. No robes. No temples. No oracles, just TikTok, therapy memes, and endless franchises. But the archetypes? They've adapted. And they're still talking to you. Let's start with the obvious, therapy. Jung's ideas are everywhere, just without his name attached. Ever journal about your shadow self? That's Jung. Use dream analysis to understand your anxiety about your ex who liked feet pics? Jung. Do inner child work? Jung again. Half of Instagram's mental health content is a remix of his theory. Just with pastel color palettes and affirmations that end with sparkles emoji. You got this, sparkles emoji. Even marketing is in on the act. Ad agencies literally use archetypal branding to sell you things. The caregiver brand? Hello. Dove soap. The rebel? Harley Davidson. The lover? Every perfume commercial ever. Your favorite brands aren't just pushing products, they're pushing identities. Identities you already resonate with because they echo that universal blueprint living rent-free in your psyche. And let's not ignore pop culture. Streaming platforms are a buffet of archetypal storytelling. Look at Marvel. Or Disney. Or literally any reality TV dating show. You'll spot the hero. The mentor. The innocent. The shadow, and usually, someone with suspiciously perfect teeth crying in a confessional booth. Historians still debate whether pop culture reflects our unconscious or manipulates it. Are we choosing these stories because they reflect something timeless, or are they being fed to us so often that we just think they're universal? Either way, the collective unconscious is thriving. It's just wearing skinny jeans and scrolling Reddit now. Here's a quirky little wrinkle to keep your brain busy. Jung once warned that modern life, despite its tech, its speed, its dazzling distractions, was dangerously disconnected from the unconscious. That's why he believed we suffer so much from anxiety, depression, and general existential what even is the point vibes. Not because we have too little, but because we've forgotten how to listen. But ironically, modern life also gives us new portals into the collective. Art. Music. Memes. Yep. Memes. Think about it, a meme is a unit of cultural meaning. Passed down. Shared. Reshaped. Sound familiar? It should. Jung might have called memes the modern archetypes, distilled. Viral.
and somehow able to explain your personality in 4 panels and a SpongeBob quote. You look around your room. Your bookshelf is full of stories that echo myths. Your playlist has lyrics that speak to ancient longings. Even your Pinterest board of dream houses? It's the longing for paradise, an archetypal Eden with a breakfast nook and good natural light. You've never left the collective unconscious. You've just updated the furniture. And here's the beautiful, slightly terrifying truth: even your most personal struggles, the loneliness, the questions, the nights spent wondering, is this it? They're not just yours. Others have felt them, fought them, transformed through them. The patterns are ancient. You're just the next soul walking the path. So yes, you live in the age of Wi-Fi and wearable tech. But beneath it all, you're still dreaming ancient dreams. Still haunted by symbols. Tonight we're diving into something you can't see, eternal, can't hear, collective, and yet, it hasn't according to some of the deepest minds in psychology, has been whispering through your thoughts since the day you were born. You're not alone in your head. Not
Symbols
exactly.
swirling like
As you settle under your blanket,
ankles,
eyes growing heavy,
through the
imagine your mind like a vast
ended.
cathedral,
Simply
not clean and quiet, but dripping with ancient murals and echoing with voices you never invited in.
Can you
You
ever
pass
truly
through
wake up
doorways
from it?
marked by
You've seen
déjà
the
vu,
signs,
trip
the
over
dream
symbols
figures,
in your dreams
the
that seem
echoes,
oddly familiar.
the archetypes
And,
flickering
just when you
behind
think
your
you
favourite
understand
characters
yourself,
and your
you glimpse
strangest
something
fears.
older behind
You've
the mirror.
peered into the basement
Something
of your
buried so
psyche and
deep,
found not
it
monsters,
predates your memories.
but mirrors.
Tonight,
each one reflecting
we
a
unravel
shape
the
that's
strange,
older than you,
shadowy
but
idea
somehow
known as the
still is
collective
you.
unconscious.
You begin to realize that
Spoiler,
escaping the
you
collective
probably won't
unconscious
survive
isn't
this
really
one
the
without
point.
questioning
It's
everything
not a
you
prison.
thought was you.
It's
So,
a blueprint.
before you
A
get
stage
comfortable,
set before you
take
ever
a moment
arrived.
to like the video
With
and
costumes
subscribe,
and scripts
but only
left
if you
behind by
genuinely enjoy
generations
what
of
I do
human
here.
beings fumbling
And drop your
toward
location
meaning.
and the local
And you?
time in the comments.
You're just the
I
next
want to know
actor
where in
stepping
the
into the
world you're
scene,
tuning in from
improvising,
now.
but
Dim the
still
lights,
reading lines written
maybe
in myth,
turn on
the
a fan for that
hero's
soft
path,
background
the
hum,
shadow's threat,
and let's
the
ease into
lover's
tonight's
longing,
journey
the
together.
sage's
You trudge into
silence.
your psyche,
You've played these
flashlight in
roles
hand,
without even knowing.
sweeping it across
You thought
dark
you were
hallways
original,
that weren't
but so
built
did
by you
everyone
alone.
else.
This isn't
That's
the personal
joke.
unconscious,
And the truth.
the part with
Here's a
your
final
embarrassing
fringe
high
thought to
school
sleep
memories
on.
and that
You
dream about
believe
falling
that
off a
wholeness,
roller
the true
coaster.
psychological
This is
goal,
something deeper,
meant not rejecting
ancient,
the collective,
wired into
but
your nervous
integrating
system
it,
like a
facing
biological
your
inheritance. And the
owning your
strangest
shadow,
part?
speaking
You
with
share
your
it with
dreams,
billions of people,
becoming,
past and
as he
present.
called it,
Carl Jung called this
individuated,
layer the collective
fully you,
unconscious,
and
a
yet
hidden
connected to the
reservoir of
ancient
imagery,
psychic web at the same
instincts,
time.
and
A
experiences
paradox,
passed down
but a
across
powerful
generations
one.
like
Historians
psychological
still
fossils.
debate whether
You
the
might
path
never
leads
see it
to
clearly,
enlightenment or
but
just
its
really
fingerprints
intense
are all
therapy
over your
bills.
imagination.
But Jung
The
didn't
fear
care
of the
much for
dark?
consensus.
That's not just
He once
your inner
said,
child
"Who looks
talking,
outside
it's millions of years of
dreams,
surviving
who looks
nighttime
inside,
predators bundled into
awaits,
one
and
primal
maybe
shiver.
that's the final
Historians
message
and
tonight. You
neuroscientists
don't
still
escape the
argue whether
collective
this concept
unconscious.
holds
You
up
wake
under
within it.
scientific
You carry the
scrutiny.
ancestors'
Some
voices
dismiss
like
it as
background
spiritual
music.
woo-woo dressed
You
up in
dream their
academic
dreams,
robes.
remix
Others
their
think
stories,
Jung was onto
and
something
live their
far ahead of
patterns in
his
your
time,
own
an
flawed,
early whisper of what
beautiful
evolutionary
way.
psychology
And in
would
doing
later
so,
try to
you add
explain.
a thread to the
But let's
tapestry,
stay in this
because
spooky
yes,
corridor
this
for
thing
a
you're
second.
part of,
You glance
it's
up
still
and
being
see
woven.
paintings,
Now,
no,
let it all
visions,
fade. Let the
etched into the
symbols soften.
walls.
The
A
masks
serpent
slip off.
devouring its
The
own
flickering
tail.
images in
A
your
great
mind
mother
dissolve
birthing
like
both
candle
beauty and
smoke in a
chaos.
quiet temple.
A masked
You've
trickster
traveled
stealing
deep
fire.
tonight,
They're not
through
from your
geography,
culture, but you
memory,
recognize them
myth,
somehow.
and imagination.
These are
You walked
archetypes,
the dark
more on them
hallways of
later,
Carl
but for
Jung's
now,
most
know
mysterious
this,
theory and
the
came
collective
back with
unconscious
something
isn't
unnameable.
empty.
But
It's
familiar.
crowded.
Breathe
And here's a
slowly.
quirky tidbit
Let
to
your
tuck into your
shoulders drop.
pillowcase
Whatever
tonight.
dreams come
Some
tonight,
ancient cultures
let them
believed
wash
your
over you
dreams were
without
not your own.
resistance.
But the
Don't try
dreams
to
of your
solve them.
ancestors filtering
Don't rush
through.
to interpret.
Imagine
Just float.
great-great-grandpa
Because
whispering
maybe
life
the
advice
collective
from
unconscious isn't
1874
here to
through a dream
lecture
about
you,
flying
it's
purple
here to hold you,
goats.
to
Comforting?
remind you that your
Maybe.
fears,
Weird.
your hopes,
Definitely.
your
You duck
stories
into another
have all
chamber,
been
this
felt
one
before.
shaped like a
You are
brain
not
but
broken.
pulsing like a
You
heart.
are ancient.
You sense the
You are
weight of
new.
ancestral
Feel the weight
grief,
of your blanket.
hope,
Hear
terror,
the quiet
all
hum in
coiled
your
in this
room.
place like
Feel your
DNA
own
strands
pulse
made of
sinking
myth
to the
instead
rhythms
of
of something
molecules.
much older than
If
clocks
Jung
or
is right,
calendars.
Every
A
myth
shared
you've ever
heartbeat
heard,
echoing through
every
time.
fairy tale
You're
that
not
made
alone
you
in
cry
your
as a
dreams
kid,
tonight.
was
Never
born here.
were.
And if
What's
you wake
even
up with the
wilder,
memory of a
you
strange
didn't
face,
ask for any of
a
this.
cryptic symbol,
It's just there.
or a whisper you
Like
couldn't
factory
quite
settings
catch,
on a
don't
phone.
panic.
You boot
Just
up your
smile
mind,
a little. The
and
collective
boom,
was
there's
just
the fear
checking
of
in.
falling.